Princess Lyra stood by the tall golden window of her room, staring out at the alien city below. The sunlight of her planet fell in soft, greenish beams, touching the towers, gardens, and markets in a strange, almost magical way. The city was alive, full of colors and life, but Lyra felt empty inside. Her stomach ached again. Hunger was nothing new for her, but today it felt sharper, harder. Lyra was the daughter of King Theros, the ruler of the planet Zorath. He was a strong, proud leader who demanded perfection from everyone, especially his daughter. The palace had rules, many rules. Some were for safety, some for order, and some for appearances. And the most important rule for the princess was strict dieting. Lyra had grown up eating only what the palace allowed, simple, pale food that barely filled her stomach. Rich, heavy meals were forbidden. Sweet fruits were rare, and bread was almost unknown. Meat was only allowed in small portions, usually for ceremonies. The palace chefs followed the rules without question, because disobeying meant punishment. Lyra knew the rules. She had lived by them her entire life, but hunger never left her. She would sometimes hide in her private garden, watching the trees bend in the wind, dreaming of food that smelled good and tasted better. She did not know what Earth food was, but she had heard stories from the few travelers who came to Zorath. They spoke of smells and tastes unlike anything on her planet. She imagined colors and textures dancing in her mouth, warm bread, juicy fruits, rich sauces. Today, she felt braver. Her weakness had grown too strong to ignore. She could no longer wait for a miracle. She wanted to taste something, anything, that would fill her stomach and heart. From the corridor outside, soft footsteps echoed. Lyra turned slightly. A servant girl peeked in. "Princess, are you well?" she whispered. Her large blue eyes were full of worry. "I am fine," Lyra said softly, though her voice trembled. "I just need some air." The girl hesitated. "The palace gardens are open now, but you know the king will not allow it if he sees you wandering alone." Lyra smiled faintly. "I know. I'll be careful." And with that, she slipped out of her room. The corridors smelled of polished metal and alien flowers. She moved quickly but silently, careful not to attract attention. She had done this many times before. The gardens were vast, stretching beyond the palace walls, filled with plants that glowed softly in the strange light. Lyra breathed deeply, feeling the warmth of the sun and the scent of alien blooms. But her stomach growled again. She knelt by a small fountain, watching the water ripple. She wished for food that could fill her hunger, even for a moment. She had heard whispers about a human in the city. Humans were rare here, visitors from a distant planet called Earth. Most aliens saw humans as strange, weak, and unimportant. But there were stories about their cleverness and courage. Some said humans could do amazing things, things no alien could imagine. And one of these humans, a trader, had come to the market recently. They said he carried unusual goods. They said he could cook food that made people happy. Lyra's curiosity stirred. Could a human really make food like that? Could a human help her hunger, her weakness, her empty stomach? She decided she had to see for herself. The market was alive with sounds and smells, a busy chaos of merchants, traders, and citizens. Alien. Voices shouted prices. Strange machines clanked and buzzed. Shiny fruits and colored powders were stacked in rows. Lyra moved carefully through the crowd, hiding under her hood. Her eyes searched for a human figure. And then she saw him. The human. Trader stood behind a small stall. He had short dark hair, strong arms, and a friendly smile. His hands moved quickly, mixing ingredients in a way that looked almost magical. He spoke in a strange language, but Lyra understood some of the words. He was explaining what he was making, his gestures clear, his voice warm and confident. Lyra watched, fascinated. The food smelled different from anything she had ever known. Sweet, spicy, savory all at once. Her mouth watered. She took a cautious step forward. The human noticed her. He tilted his head slightly, curious but did not seem afraid. "Would you like to try some?" he asked in broken Zorathian, but enough to be understood. Lyra hesitated. Could she trust him? She had been taught that humans were unpredictable, even dangerous, but her hunger, her curiosity, and something in his calm, friendly eyes pushed her forward. Yes, she said. Softly, he smiled. Good, try this first. He handed her a small piece of bread with a colorful spread. It was warm. The aroma was sweet and comforting. Lyra held it carefully and took a small bite. The moment the bread touched her tongue, she gasped. The flavors were incredible. Sweet, rich, soft, and warm all at once. Her stomach felt a strange, happy warmth spreading through it. She had never tasted anything like this before. Her eyes widened. More? The human asked, smiling. Lyra nodded, almost unable to speak. He gave her a small dish of fruit with a sauce that smelled like sunlight. She ate slowly, savoring every bite. Her hunger, her weakness, even her tiredness seemed to fade. Energy returned to her body, and for the first time in years she felt alive. The human laughed softly. I think you like it. Lyra could only nod, her heart racing with excitement and gratitude. It is wonderful, she said. Earth food, he said proudly, made by humans. Simple but good for the soul. Lyra smiled. She did not fully understand what he meant, but she felt it was true. This simple food had done something magical. It had given her strength, joy, and hope. The human looked around cautiously. You should not be here too long, he said. The guard, your father. Lyra's face fell slightly. She knew he meant the king. King Theros was strict, and if he discovered the princess eating forbidden food, it could be dangerous. But something inside her had changed. She did not want to go back to weakness and hunger. Thank you, she whispered. I will come again. The human nodded. I will be here, but be careful. Lyra slipped away into the crowd, her stomach full and her mind alive with excitement. She could hardly believe what had happened. A human, simple and strange, had given her food that made her feel strong, and somehow, she wanted to know more about humans. Back in her room, she lay on her bed, thinking. She had always been curious, always wondered about the world outside the palace walls. Now she had a reason to explore, to learn, to taste, to live. She closed her eyes, dreaming of the next time she would see the human, of the colors and smells and warmth of earthly delights. But there was also worry. King Theros would not approve. The palace rules were strict. The servants whispered of punishment. And yet, Lyra felt a fire inside her. A fire that hunger had never sparked before. She would find a way. She had to. The next morning, the palace felt different. Lyra walked with a lightness she had not felt in years. She moved with strength, and her eyes sparkled with something new. Curiosity, hope, and determination. She would not be weak anymore. She would not only survive. She would discover, explore, and taste the world. And maybe, just maybe, humans were the key. In the palace gardens, Lyra paused and looked at the sun. She whispered softly to herself, I will find that human again. Somewhere in the market, the human trader laughed to himself, unaware that he had changed the life of the princess forever. Princess Lyra awoke before sunrise. The pale green light of Zorath's morning filled her room. Today, her mind was not on rules or duties. Today, she thought only of the human and his strange, wonderful food. She moved quietly, careful not to wake the palace guards or servants. Her stomach felt lighter, energized by the earthly bread and fruit she had tasted the day before. Lyra knew she could not let her father find out. King Theros would not allow humans to touch his palace, and he certainly would not permit his daughter to eat foreign food. Yet curiosity burned inside her. She had tasted something new, something magical, and she wanted more. She had to see the human again. The market was waking up, already buzzing with merchants and traders. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the stalls, selling fruits, fabrics, and technology. But Lyra moved carefully, blending in. She was smaller than most aliens her age, and her hood covered her golden hair, but she still drew occasional glances. She ignored them. She had a mission. The human trader was there, Captain Elias. He was arranging colorful dishes on his small stall, his hands moving with skill and confidence. He looked human, ordinary by his planet's standards. But in Lyra's eyes he seemed extraordinary. His dark hair was messy and his brown eyes sparkled with humor and warmth. He looked up and smiled as he saw her. "You again?" he said softly, his voice carrying over the morning noise. Lyra hesitated. I wanted to see you," she admitted. "Your food, it is amazing," Elias laughed. "I'm glad you liked it, but you must be careful. Humans are not supposed to be here, and princesses are not supposed to wander the market." Lyra bit her lip. She did not care about the rules right now. "I must try more," she whispered. "Please." Elias studied her for a moment, then nodded. "All right, but only something small for now. We must not attract attention." He handed her a small dish filled with bright red fruit slices, drizzled with a sweet, glowing syrup. Lyra tasted it, and her eyes widened. Each bite was a new explosion of flavor, sweet, tangy, and alive. She had never imagined such a taste. Her stomach felt full for the first time in years, but it was not just food. It was joy, energy, and life. You are incredible," she said, amazed. Elias smiled. "Humans know how to make ordinary things feel extraordinary. That is what food does for us. It is not just for survival. It is for happiness." Lyra nodded, absorbing his words. She had always thought food was just to eat, but this was different. She could feel her body strengthening, her mind clearing, her mood lifting. She wanted to learn more. I want to learn," she said. "I want to know how humans make food. I want to know about your planet." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Your father would not approve. The king, he is strict. He does not trust humans." Lyra's shoulders stiffened. "I do not care," she said firmly. "I only care about learning, about trying new things, about feeling alive." Elias studied her carefully. She was brave, but she also carried fragility. Her thin arms and pale skin told of years of strict dieting, yet her eyes burned with curiosity and determination. "You are bold," Elias said finally. "Most aliens would not risk this. I will help you, but we must be careful. One mistake and your father could punish you." Lyra nodded, her heart pounding. "I will be careful." For the next hour, Elias showed her simple techniques for preparing food. He mixed spices, peeled fruits, and created small dishes that looked like art. Lyra watched carefully, her hands itching to try. She learned quickly, her fingers moving with surprising skill. Elias laughed at her mistakes and encouraged her successes. "You have talent," he said. "I did not expect this from a princess." Lyra smiled, proud but shy. "I want to help myself. I want to be strong." Elias's smile softened. "Then you will be. Humans do not give up easily. You have to fight for what you want." Lyra felt a spark inside her. Fighting was something she had never thought about. In the palace, obedience had been everything. But now she understood that courage meant action, even when rules told you otherwise. Suddenly, a shout echoed from across the market. A palace guard was moving through the crowd, searching. Lyra's heart jumped. She ducked behind a stall, clutching her small dishes of fruit. Elias stepped in front of her, blocking the guard's view. "Go," he whispered urgently. "Quickly before he sees you." Lyra ran, her hood slipping slightly as she moved. She felt the human's presence behind her, steady and protective. For the first time, she did not feel alone in the world. When she reached a quiet alley, Elias waited with a grin. "You are fast," he said. But next time, we must be more careful. Lyra laughed softly, catching her breath. Next time? There will be a next time. As she returned to the palace, her mind buzzed with excitement. She knew her father would notice changes soon. She felt stronger, healthier, happier. She had learned something no palace rule could teach her. Humans, ordinary as they seemed, held knowledge and skills beyond her imagination, and she wanted more. Back in her room, she unpacked the small dishes she had managed to bring. She ate slowly, savoring each bite. The flavors, the warmth, the energy. They were intoxicating. She felt a part of the world she had never known, a part that was alive and free. Her thoughts turned to her father, King Theros. He was proud, strong, and unyielding. He loved his daughter, but he did not understand her hunger. For food, for knowledge, for life. How could he, when he had spent so long teaching obedience and discipline? Lyra knew she would have to be careful. She could not let him discover her secret. But she also knew she could not give up her new world of flavors and energy. Days passed, and Lyra continued her secret meetings with Elias. Each day she learned more about earth and human ways of cooking. She discovered spices that could make simple food taste amazing. She learned how to mix fruits and nuts to create energy. She even learned to bake bread, a simple act that felt magical to her. With each meal, her strength grew. She could walk longer, run faster, and her eyes sparkled with life again. The court noticed the change. Servants whispered about the princess's sudden energy. Some thought it was a miracle. Others suspected something strange, but none could imagine the truth. One evening, as Lyra prepared a small snack in her private kitchen, a voice startled her. "Princess Lyra," said the head chef, stepping inside. "What are you doing here alone?" Lyra froze. The chef was strict but kind, loyal to the king. She had to be careful. I am just testing recipes," she said softly. "I want to learn to cook like humans." The chef raised an eyebrow. "Humans? You know the king will not allow such influence. Be careful. Do not let your curiosity endanger you." Lyra nodded, hiding her fear. "I will be careful," she promised. As the chef left, Lyra took a deep breath. She could not stop now. She had tasted a world she never knew existed. Humans had opened a door for her, and she would not close it. That night she dreamed of the market, of the bright dishes, of the human who had shown her life beyond rules. She saw herself traveling, learning, tasting, discovering, and she smiled, knowing that her journey had only just begun. The human, Captain Elias, did not know the princess was learning so much so quickly, but he felt a strange connection to her. He admired her bravery, her curiosity, and her hunger, not just for food but for life itself. He had seen humans do amazing things, but he had not expected to meet an alien princess who could learn, adapt, and grow so quickly. Meanwhile, the palace remained quiet, unaware of the secret friendship forming between two very different worlds. The king slept in his chambers, proud of his daughter's obedience and beauty, blind to the fire that was growing inside her. Days passed in the golden halls of the palace, but nothing was as it seemed. Princess Lyra moved with energy and strength that surprised even her. Her steps were quicker, her mind sharper, and her spirits brighter. Yet with each passing day, the shadow of suspicion grew closer. King Theros, proud and strong, had begun to notice the changes in his daughter. The court whispered among themselves, watching her newfound vigor. Some said she had grown more confident. Others suspected something strange. The king's advisors were nervous. "Your Majesty," said Lord Korth, an elder counselor, "the princess, she has changed. Her strength, her appetite, it is unusual. Could there be outside influence?" "King." Theros's eyes narrowed. "Outside influence? Speak clearly, Korth." "There are rumors of a human in the city," the counselor said carefully. "A traitor who prepares exotic dishes. Some say the princess has tasted his food." The king's expression darkened. "A human? Here?" In my palace? Do you think my daughter? His voice trailed, filled with disbelief and anger. Lord Korth bowed. We only speak of possibilities, Your Majesty. But her strength, her energy, it is unlike anything we have seen before. Theros clenched his fists. Humans were weak, unpredictable, and dangerous in his eyes. Yet somehow, one had reached his daughter. Somehow the human had done what no alien could, brought joy, energy, and life to Lyra. And for that, the king felt a mix of fear and anger. Meanwhile, Lyra continued her secret lessons with Elias. They met in quiet corners of the palace gardens or in hidden alleys near the market. She learned more about spices, cooking techniques, and the way humans celebrated food. One afternoon, she arrived at their meeting spot with a small basket of alien fruits. Elias raised an eyebrow. Planning to teach me alien food? He asked, smiling. Lyra laughed softly. Perhaps. But I want to mix them with earth ingredients. I want to see what happens. Elias nodded. Good. Experimentation is how humans discover new things. You are learning fast, Princess. They worked together, cutting, mixing, and creating dishes that smelled like nothing Lyra had ever known. Each creation gave her more strength, and each bite made her feel alive. But that very afternoon, trouble arrived. A palace guard appeared, searching the garden. Lyra froze, her heart racing. Elias stepped forward, blocking her view. Stay calm, he whispered. Follow my lead. Lyra nodded, holding her basket close. The guard moved past them, looking suspicious, but finding nothing. The princess's pulse slowed, but the fear remained. She had seen the danger firsthand. Later that evening, back in her chambers, Lyra reflected on the risk she was taking. She could not stop. The food, the lessons, the human, it had all given her life. But her father's suspicion was growing, and the palace was never forgiving of secrets. The following day, King Theros summoned Lyra to the council chamber. His presence was commanding. His eyes, sharp as blades, studied his daughter. Lyra, he said, his voice firm. Your recent change, your strength, your energy. What is happening to you? Lyra's heart raced. She could not lie entirely, but she could not tell the truth either. I am feeling stronger, Father, she said carefully. Perhaps the palace medicine is finally working. The king's eyes narrowed. Medicine? Or something else? Lyra hesitated, then bowed. It is nothing, Father. I promise. But Theros did not look convinced. He dismissed her, warning her silently. He would know the truth soon. That night, Lyra met Elias again. Her hands shook slightly as she told him about her father's suspicion. They know something is happening, she said softly. The king. Suspects, I do not know what to do. Elias looked thoughtful. We must be careful but not stop. You have learned something precious. Food, knowledge, strength. These are gifts humans can share. But we need a plan. One mistake, and your father could harm you, or worse, forbid humans entirely. Lyra nodded. I understand, but I cannot stop. I feel alive for the first time. I cannot go back to weakness. Elias smiled softly. Then we continue. Quietly, carefully, but we continue. The next week, Lyra began experimenting on her own. She had learned enough from Elias to prepare small meals in her chambers. She combined alien fruits with human techniques, creating dishes that smelled sweet, fresh, and energizing. Each meal strengthened her, and each success gave her confidence. Yet the palace was not idle. The king had ordered increased security near the gardens and the kitchens. He had spoken to the chefs, questioning what they had noticed about the princess's health. Whispers spread through the palace. One morning, Lyra's personal chef, a woman named Serena, approached her with, Caution, princess, she said quietly. I must speak. Something is happening. You You are stronger, healthier, more energetic. What are you doing? Lyra hesitated. Could she tell Serena? She trusted her, but the risk was high. I am trying new foods, Lyra admitted carefully. I have learned some things from someone outside the palace. Serena's eyes widened. Outside? Do you mean a human? Lyra nodded slightly. Yes, but it is not dangerous. It is good for me. It gives me life. Serena studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. I will help you, quietly, but you must be careful. The king watches closely. One mistake and everything will be discovered. Lyra's heart lifted. Finally, an ally inside the palace. Thank you, Serena. We must be careful, but I cannot stop. I feel alive again. Together, they planned small meals, hidden in the quiet hours of the night. The palace kitchens became a secret laboratory of flavors and strength. Lyra experimented with human spices, alien fruits, and her growing knowledge. Each creation brought energy, joy, and hope. But tension grew. King Theros noticed changes in the palace. He observed Lyra closely, his sharp eyes missing nothing. He questioned the council, the guards, even the chefs. Yet the secret held. One evening, as Lyra prepared a small dish of alien fruit and human spices, she heard footsteps outside her chambers. Panic surged. She hid the food quickly. A voice called softly, "Princess Lyra?" She peeked through the curtains. It was Serena, her eyes wide but calm. "Follow me," she whispered. "The king is alert tonight. We must move carefully." Lyra nodded, clutching a small basket of prepared food. They moved through secret corridors, avoiding the main halls. The moonlight of Zorath bathed the palace in silver green, making the journey surreal and tense. Finally, they reached a hidden garden where Elias was waiting. His eyes lit up as he saw Lyra. "You are late," he said softly, smiling. "I had to avoid the king's patrols," Lyra said. "He is suspicious. I feel it. We must be careful tonight." Elias nodded. "We will be careful, but we will not stop. The work we do, it is important." Lyra smiled, feeling the strength and courage growing inside her. She was no longer weak, no longer a prisoner of hunger or fear. She had allies, knowledge, and the will to survive and thrive. They prepared small dishes together, laughing softly as they experimented. The food smelled amazing, a mix of alien fruits, spices, and human techniques. Lyra tasted each creation, feeling the joy and energy spread through her body. She had never felt so alive. As the night grew deep, Lyra looked at Elias and whispered, "One day I want to share this with my father. I want him to understand, but not yet. Not while he is suspicious." Elias nodded. "One day he will see. One day he will understand what humans can offer. For now, we keep it secret, quietly, carefully." And so, under the silver-green moonlight, the princess learned, experimented, and grew stronger. She had tasted life beyond rules, beyond fear, beyond hunger, and though danger surrounded her, she felt a fire inside that could not be extinguished. King Theros may have been suspicious, but he did not yet know the true power of human ingenuity, of curiosity, or of a princess who dared to defy weakness. Lyra had discovered a world beyond her palace, beyond tradition, and beyond fear, and she was determined to explore it fully, no matter the risks. The stage was set for the challenges to come. Secrets could not remain hidden forever, and the king's suspicions would soon clash with the princess's courage. But for now, Lyra had hope, strength, and a secret ally from a distant world. The palace of Zorath buzzed with unusual excitement. Today was no ordinary day. King Theros had organized a grand celebration to honor the city's prosperity and the palace's power. Aliens from distant planets had come to witness the kingdom's wealth, technology, and culture. The golden halls shimmered with lights, crystal displays, and exotic decorations. Princess Lyra walked among the preparations with careful attention. Her heart beat fast. Today, Elias had promised something extraordinary, a human feast prepared with skill and care for the first time in the palace. But she also knew the risks. King Theros' suspicion had been growing, and this was a public event. One mistake and everything could be lost. Elias waited in a secluded corner of the palace gardens. He had managed to bring a small team of humans disguised as servants. Their task was delicate: prepare a feast that would honor the king and delight the guests without raising immediate alarm. Lyra approached him quietly. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elias nodded. "As ready as we can be. Remember, Princess, confidence and respect. Show them that humans can create something beautiful, not just strange." Lyra nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. She had grown stronger and more confident over the past weeks, but standing in front of her father in the court was a different challenge. She knew the king's eyes would be sharp, searching for any sign of disobedience. The feast began. The palace hall was filled with the hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses, and the soft music of alien instruments. King Theros sat at the head of the hall, regal and commanding. His eyes swept the room, finally resting on his daughter. Lyra smiled politely, bowing slightly, hiding her nervousness. Elias stepped forward, carrying the first dish. It was a simple yet beautiful creation, a loaf of warm bread, golden brown, with a glaze of sweet, earthy syrup. The aroma filled the hall, drawing curious glances from the guests. "What is this?" asked a visiting ambassador, his voice skeptical. "It is a human creation," Elias said confidently. "A gift from Earth, simple yet nourishing and delightful." The guests murmured among themselves. Aliens were not accustomed to human food. Most had never seen anything like it. Some frowned, others whispered excitedly. Lyra watched carefully, as her father leaned forward. King Theros' sharp eyes studied the loaf. His face remained stoic, but she could feel his tension. "Try it," Lyra said softly, placing a hand near her father's plate. "It is good." The king raised an eyebrow, then took a small piece. He tasted it slowly. A silence fell over the hall. The flavor was unlike anything he had experienced. Sweet, warm, and soft, yet full of energy. His eyes widened slightly. "Interesting," he muttered, chewing thoughtfully. "But humans, are they truly skilled enough to serve our court?" Elias bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, humans are not only capable, but their knowledge and creativity can bring joy and life. We do not seek to replace your culture, only to share something new, something enriching." The next dishes followed. Elias presented a colorful array of fruits, spiced sauces, and small delicacies. Each plate was carefully explained, every ingredient chosen to show respect for Zorath's customs while introducing earthly flavors. Lyra watched as the court tasted the dishes. Some aliens whispered in delight, others were skeptical. But slowly the atmosphere shifted. The court began to laugh softly, exchanging smiles. The food was enjoyable, delightful even. King Theros' eyes never left his daughter. He watched Lyra as she tasted the food herself, her face glowing with energy and joy. She ate slowly, savoring every bite. Her confidence, her strength, her happiness, it was clear for all to see. The king's expression softened slightly. He did not fully understand what had happened, but he could not deny the change in his daughter. Lyra looked healthier, more vibrant, more alive than he had seen in years. Finally, Elias prepared the centerpiece, a dish of layered fruits, nuts, and spices, glowing softly under the palace lights. He placed it before the king. "Your Majesty," Elias said, "this is the gift of Earth, made with care, respect, and knowledge. It is meant to nourish not just the body, but the mind and spirit." The king hesitated, then tasted the dish. His eyes widened. The flavors were bold, sweet, and subtle all at once. He had never experienced anything like it. Princess Lyra took a deep breath. Father, this human has taught me something important. That food can be more than survival. It can bring life, joy, and strength. I feel stronger because of him. The hall fell silent. All eyes turned to the king. His expression was unreadable. Then slowly, he nodded. Humans, he said softly, almost to himself. Perhaps we have underestimated them. The princess smiled, relieved. She had not expected her father to accept Elias so quickly, but the king's eyes now held curiosity instead of anger. He studied the human carefully, noticing his respect, skill, and honesty. Elias bowed again. Your Majesty, I seek no favor. Only the chance to show that humans can bring value, friendship, and knowledge. The king considered him carefully. Then finally he spoke. You have impressed me and my daughter. You may continue under supervision. Let your knowledge and skill be a gift to our court. A wave of relief washed over Lyra. She had risked everything, but it had paid off. Her father, strict and proud, had acknowledged the human skill and the value of his teachings. The feast continued, filled with laughter, conversation, and delight. Aliens and humans shared plates, learning from one another, tasting new flavors, and exchanging ideas. The palace had never been so alive. Later, in a quiet corner of the gardens, Lyra spoke softly to Elias. Thank you, she said. I could not have done this without you. You have changed my life. Elias smiled. No, princess. You changed your own life. You were brave enough to try, to learn, to risk everything. I only guided you. Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining. I want to learn more. About humans, about your world, about everything. And you will, Elias said softly. But carefully. You have already faced suspicion and danger. The journey is just beginning. The princess nodded, feeling stronger and more alive than ever. She knew there would be challenges ahead, suspicion, jealousy, and perhaps even danger from those who feared change. But for the first time, she felt confident in herself. King Theros, watching from a distance, felt a mixture of pride and caution. He had seen the power of human ingenuity, the courage of his daughter, and the possibilities that lay beyond his strict rules. Change was coming to the palace, whether he liked it or not. That night, as the palace quieted, Lyra lay in her chambers, reflecting on the day. She had faced fear, risked her father's anger, and embraced something completely new. She had tasted earthly delight, learned skills, and gained courage. And she had earned her father's cautious respect. Elias, meanwhile, packed his dishes carefully, preparing to leave the palace unnoticed. He knew the journey was far from over. Humans were rare here, and the princess's curiosity could bring both wonder and danger. But he trusted Lyra. She had proven herself brave, intelligent, and determined. The princess smiled to herself, thinking of the future. She had discovered a world beyond her palace, a world where humans could teach, inspire, and strengthen. And she knew this was only the beginning. Tomorrow she would continue her lessons. She would explore new flavors, learn new techniques, and grow stronger. And one day, perhaps, she would show her father the full potential of human knowledge, courage, and ingenuity. For now she slept, her dreams filled with colors, smells, and tastes she had never imagined. And in the quiet palace, the seeds of friendship, discovery, and change were planted, seeds that would grow into something extraordinary. The bold gesture had succeeded. The human had impressed not only the princess, but the king and the court. And for the first time, Princess Lyra felt truly free, alive, curious, and ready for whatever the future might bring. The palace of Zorath was alive in a way it had never been before. The golden halls shimmered with light, laughter, and conversation. Guests from distant planets spoke of the feast they had tasted, marveling at the flavors and colors that were so different from their own worlds. Humans, though rare and often underestimated, had left a strong impression. Princess Lyra moved gracefully among the guests, her golden hair gleaming in the lights. Her posture was confident, her face glowing with health and happiness. Gone were the days of weakness, hunger, and uncertainty. With each passing moment she felt stronger, bolder, and more alive. King Theros watched from his seat at the head of the hall. He had seen much today, the human skill, his daughter's courage, and the delight of the guests. He had also seen Lyra take the first steps toward independence, learning to make choices, to trust herself, and to embrace new knowledge. For the first time, he felt something unfamiliar, pride mixed with awe. His daughter had grown, not just in strength but in character, and humans, he realized now they could teach, inspire, and improve the lives of those willing to learn. Lyra approached Elias quietly. He had been working behind the scenes, ensuring the guests were served and that everything ran smoothly. His calm demeanor and skill had turned what could have been a risky experiment into a grand success. "You did it," Lyra said softly, smiling. "Everyone. They loved it. Even Father." Elias chuckled. "You did it, Lyra. I only guided you. You were brave enough to take the first steps. That is what impressed your father, and me." Lyra's heart swelled with happiness. She had risked so much and it had paid off. She looked around the hall at the smiling faces, the delighted guests, and the curious chefs learning new techniques. For the first time, she felt that the world was not limited by rules or tradition. It was full of possibilities. Later, in a quiet corner of the palace gardens, King Theros approached his daughter. His steps were firm, his presence commanding, yet his eyes were softer than she had ever seen. "Lyra," he said, his voice steady, "I have watched you closely these past weeks. I have seen your courage, your strength, and your determination, and I have seen the human who has guided you." Lyra bowed slightly. "Father." Theros studied her for a moment. "I underestimated humans. I thought them weak, strange, and unworthy of trust. But today, I have seen their value, their knowledge, their skill, their ability to inspire. It is extraordinary." Lyra's eyes widened. "You approve?" The king nodded slowly. "I approve of your lessons, your courage, and your desire to grow. But you must always remember, Princess, that wisdom comes with responsibility. You have shown both strength and prudence today. That is commendable." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had feared punishment, yet she had gained her father's respect. For the first time, she felt fully seen, not as a princess, bound by rules, but as an individual capable of growth, courage, and achievement. Elias stepped forward, bowing respectfully. "Your Majesty, I only seek to share knowledge and skill. I wish no harm. My purpose is to show that humans can contribute positively to this world." King Theros nodded. "You have proven that. You may continue your work here under careful supervision, but know this: the trust you have earned is rare. Do not squander it." Elias bowed again. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will honor your trust." With that, the tension in the palace began to ease. Lyra felt free in a way she had never imagined. She was no longer a princess bound by hunger and weakness. She had tasted life, courage, and joy. And she knew that with humans by her side, her world could grow in ways she had never dreamed. Over the next few weeks, the palace kitchens and gardens became a hub of learning and experimentation. Humans and Zarathians worked side by side, exchanging knowledge, techniques, and ideas. Recipes combined alien ingredients with human methods, creating new flavors that delighted everyone. Lyra thrived in this environment. She learned quickly, guided others, and continued to grow in confidence and strength. Her days of hunger were gone. Her nights were filled with dreams of exploration, friendship, and discovery. She felt alive, empowered, and connected to a world beyond the palace walls. King Theros watched with cautious pride. He observed his daughter's growth and the positive influence of the humans. He realized that change, though frightening at first, could bring incredible benefits. The palace was no longer just a symbol of power. It had become a place of learning, courage, and inspiration. One afternoon, as Lyra and Elias prepared a new dish together, she looked up at him, her eyes shining. "Elias," she said softly, "I never imagined that a human could teach me so much. You have changed my life completely." Elias smiled warmly. "No, princess. You changed your own life. I only guided you. Your courage, curiosity, and determination made this possible." Lyra laughed softly. "I feel like I can do anything now. I want to learn more, explore more, and share this with others." "You can," Elias said, "and you will. Humans can show you ways, but the strength has always been within you." Their bond had grown beyond teacher and student. It was now a partnership of trust, respect, and shared curiosity. Together, they imagined a future where knowledge, culture, and friendship crossed planetary boundaries. The palace buzzed with new energy. Aliens from other worlds visited to learn the techniques humans had shared. Chefs experimented with flavors, traders learned about ingredients, and even the palace guards began to appreciate the subtle power of knowledge and skill. The human influence had transformed the court, turning suspicion into curiosity, fear into respect, and tradition into innovation. One evening, as Lyra walked through the palace gardens, she paused to look at the glowing trees and flowing fountains. The city outside was alive, filled with movement, color, and life. She thought of the first day she had tasted earthly bread, the first meeting with Elias and the risks she had taken. A sense of gratitude and accomplishment filled her heart. She had discovered courage, joy, and the power of learning from someone different, and she had done it without defying her father recklessly, gaining respect and trust along the way. Elias joined her, carrying a small tray of fresh fruit and pastries. "Princess," he said, smiling, "you have done something remarkable. You have shown that curiosity, courage, and openness can change the world. You have inspired everyone here." Lyra smiled, taking a bite of the pastry. "We have done it. Together. Humans and Zorathians working side by side. I never imagined my life could be like this." Elias nodded. "And it is only the beginning. There are more things to learn, more worlds to explore, and more discoveries to make. Together, we can achieve great things." The princess looked at the glowing horizon of her city, her eyes full of hope and excitement. She had faced hunger, weakness, fear, and suspicion, and emerged stronger, wiser, and braver. She had learned that life could be vibrant, joyful, and full of possibilities, and that humans were not just strangers from a distant planet. They were allies, teachers, and friends. In that moment, Princess Lyra understood that true strength came not from rules or obedience, but from curiosity, courage, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. And with Elias by her side, she felt ready to face any challenge, explore any world, and bring life, knowledge, and joy to those around her. King Theros, watching from his chambers, felt a quiet pride. His daughter had grown into a leader of strength, courage, and wisdom. Humans, once underestimated, had proven their worth, and the palace, once rigid and unyielding, had become a beacon of innovation, learning, and hope. The sun set over Zorath, casting golden light over the palace. Princess Lyra and Elias stood side by side, looking toward the horizon, imagining a future filled with discovery, friendship, and endless possibilities. The story of hunger, courage, and earthly delight had come to an extraordinary conclusion. But for Lyra, for Elias, and for the palace of Zorath, this was only the beginning of a new era, a time of learning, strength, and the enduring power of curiosity and courage. And so, the princess who had once been starving found not just food, but life, friendship, and the courage to change her world. The human who had guided her had shown that even the simplest acts, like sharing a meal, could transform lives, bridge worlds, and inspire greatness. Together, they had created a new legacy, one that would be remembered for generations, a tale of courage, curiosity, and the power of humans to bring life and joy across the stars.